Hey 12, it's the Seahawks Squad. Everything Seattle Seahawks every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Emerald City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get loud, 12s. The Seahawks Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Chris Crawford, Rob Rang with you today. Thank God they played 4 quarters and not just 2. Because my God, would this have been such a different episode at halftime.
Yeah.
Seahawks win this one over the Pittsburgh Steelers, go to 1-1 on the season. 31-17 was the final score. Like I said, much better second half for the Seattle Seahawks. Defense was outstanding today. Outstanding against, an offense I was a little worried about coming up against without Devin Witherspoon. So that was a huge performance, especially, like I said, in that second half. Shut down Aaron Rodgers. I guess Mike McDonald just owns Aaron Rodgers because the same thing happened last year as well when Rodgers was on the Jets. So we'll just start with our initial takes. We'll talk about the O. We'll talk about the D. I have a couple questions for you guys regarding the first half and maybe some questionable decision-making. But at the end of the day, it's grasping at straws because all you want to do is win the game. The Seahawks do just that today. So, Chris Crawford, since you joined the stream first, you get to go first. As Rob Rang, he's having some connection issues, so we'll probably see him in a few minutes here as he gets reconnected. Chris, what was your initial thoughts on today's game?
Well, first of all, happy to be wrong because I did not think they were going to win this game, and good to be me. It's nice to be wrong sometimes.
Good to be wrong, guys. That's what we do.
That's the Ted Williams get on base 48% of the time. You still fail 52% of the time. Second half, this team looked awesome. As good as I've seen them in the Mike McDonald era is how good they looked in the second half.
Yeah.
And the first half wasn't like abhorrent. There were some silly mistakes. There were some blown chances, I think, to kind of put this game away earlier.
Yeah.
But you end up doing it. They don't make a mistake nearly as silly as Caleb Johnson. And if you disagree, that's totally fine. This is totally a subjective thing. I felt awful for Caleb Johnson. I felt happy for the Seahawks. Not knowing a football rule in your second NFL game sucks. I feel bad for the kid. That's just the way I'm built. I root against when I watch Law and Order episodes, I hope the guy didn't do it. That's just the way that my mind is built. Like that, it is crazy, but it is the way that I work. There were some really silly takes about some players last week, and those players stepped up today, and that was great to see. And you get the road win, you get to take on an absolutely garbage New Orleans Saint team next week, who is currently the 49ers are struggling with Mac Jones' quarterbacking, but I was really happy with this effort. I thought the defense stepped up. The pass rush was vastly improved.
Yeah.
This is a really good win.
Yeah, Rob, I just wanted to get your initial thoughts. Thank God you found a good connection there because you're looking much better today. Like defense, probably the story of the day, but you gotta give Ken Walker his props as well.
Absolutely. Ken Walker III, I think, deserves an awful lot of credit. I think you have to give a lot of credit to Jackson Smith and Jigba. Sam Darnold with a couple of dimes.
Yep.
When Seattle ran the ball right down Pittsburgh's throat, they were so effective. Obviously, there was a lot of outside runs that were not nearly as effective. I think it really showed the Pittsburgh Steelers' speed at linebacker, but it showed Seattle's physicality up front. And so I think that there are a lot of players, of coaches that deserve an awful lot of kudos for a resounding victory. I mean, as you said in the opening, Anders, that there was, if we were having this conversation at halftime, when Seattle was, of course, down 14-7, you had the 2 turnovers, then it would have been a pretty tough conversation. But for Seattle to finish the game on a 24-3 run, I mean, this is in Pittsburgh, obviously. I just thought that the better team won, the more physical team won, the faster team, and the one that executed better. And frankly, while I don't want to criticize my my cohorts at Fox Sports and the Fox telecast, I thought that they kind of fumbled part of their analysis when they said that the big play was the missed opportunity by the rookie Caleb Johnson, who of course let the ball go over his head, and then it wound up being an easy touchdown for the Seahawks. It made it sound as if Seattle just lucked into that game. It was obviously a close game at that point.
Yeah.
Sure.
But Seattle won every metric that you can think of. Obviously the score, but in total yardage and the number of times the quarterbacks were hit, time of possession, and it wound up being a tie in turnovers as well. Actually, in Seattle's favor in turnovers when you had the late Aaron Rodgers interception. So I thought that this was a pretty dominating performance from the Seahawks, and one that Seahawks fans should be very, very excited about, because as our buddy Chris Crawford just mentioned a moment ago, you have a Saints team coming in that, regardless of what happens against the 49ers, that's a long flight from New Orleans to Seattle. And so the Seahawks really should be in position to be 2-1.
Yeah, completely agree. Chris, I think Rob hit it on the head there. I want to hear your thoughts on the idea that Seattle was kind of handed this victory. I completely disagree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I do feel bad for Caleb Johnson. I think he's going to be a nice football player and just doesn't know the rule. And that is the Seahawks take advantage of it.
Yep.
Great job hustling Helani and the rest of the Seahawks defense to go down and make that play. No, they were the better team. They were overwhelmingly the better team in the second half, guys. Like, that was, again, as good as I've seen a Mike Macdonald coach Seahawk team as I have seen for the final 30 minutes. It was really impressive. And again, the first half wasn't so bad. You're tied at the half on the road in a 10 a.m. football game. Yeah, the idea that this game was handed to the Seahawks is nonsense. They absolutely went out and took this football game.
Just to make sure, to clarify, we were down 14-7 at halftime. They came out and tied it right after the break with that first drive. But yes, it kind of felt like it was tied because you had the ball. I want to start with the offense and specifically the scripting because both drives at the beginning of the game and the first drive of the second half was about as clean of an offensive drive as you possibly get. We talk about scripting in the NFL so much. I think the best example of how important it is on Monday Night Football, Bears versus the Packers in week 1. Bears versus Commanders week 1, where Caleb Williams looks really, really good and then just cannot do anything for the rest of the game after that. Seahawks, I think, had the game plan really well executed in those first couple of drives. Rob, what did you see in that formula that can be translated hopefully through the rest of the offense? Because it's not like the offense was perfect today. There were definitely some drives where they fumbled it a little bit without going punny there.
Yeah, I just thought, again, as I mentioned a moment ago, I think there's an awful lot of credit that should be extolled upon the Seahawks. And I think that Clint Kubiak deserves a lot of that as well, because as you said, it just was some brilliant scripting there. I think it's, again, another reason why Seahawks fans should be very, very excited. I've been watching Seahawks football my entire life, and I can't tell you how many times, it's rare that you see the Seahawks score a touchdown on their opening drive. Again, on the Fox telecast, they said it had been 22 games.
First time in 22 games. That's crazy to be honest.
And then to do the same thing, as you said, to start off the second half. What I saw was I saw some receivers in motion. I saw some play action passing. I saw a variety of different types of runs. It would be the wide zone. It definitely would be just some straight up draws and dives, just off tackle runs, and just simple stuff, and just firing off the football. I saw Kenneth Walker III make some dynamic cuts. Like, we know that he can do that. But it was encouraging to see him play with that type of, I think, just focus. An intensity that I thought, again, was very exciting and is exactly the type of thing that you want. You want to be able to make an impression on your opponent immediately, and the Seahawks were able to do that in both halves of this football game.
Chris, I'm going to leave you the negative side because we got to go one way and got to go the other. Sure. But why was it such a stark contrast, especially in that first half with the first drive and then everything after that?
Just, one of those mistakes is a really good defensive play, I think, and then one of them's a pretty terrible throw, and they just can't turn the football over. I will also say this, and Turbo brought this up last week, that the Seahawks seem to kind of be slow playing things again a bit, against the 49ers.
Not revealing the full playbook sort of thing, you mean?
And I think there was a little bit of slow playing here too, setting some things up to really start working in the second half of this game, because oh boy, did they ever.
Yeah.
still, they've got to. That first drive was great. And by the way, George Halani, not only did he get that touchdown, I thought he did a terrific job on his kick returns today. And that's big, getting the chance to start over the 30-yard line. I believe there's something like a 50% success rate when you get to the 35, when you start your drive at the 35. So, I don't know how many times they did that, but they were getting in that vicinity, which is nice. You don't have to get those 75, 80-yard touchdown drives. But there were just some silly mistakes. The offensive line, I think, gelled better in the second half. Zach Charbonnet may disagree with us looking at his stat line, but I thought they did a pretty nice job with pass pro, especially later. But there were some things, it definitely came together. That first quarter after that first drive was pretty rough offensively. I do think, though, there were some things that were set up. The process, I think, was okay in those drives outside of a couple of pretty silly mistakes.
Yeah, I want to ask you guys really quick. I'm just kind of smorgasbord, just thoughts that come to my head. I'm not going any sort of order here, but the subsequent drives where they decide to punt it on fourth down, and then the next drive when they go for it on fourth down, but try and do the play action on 4th and 1.
Yeah.
I want to know what your guys' thoughts were on like the first one. Choice was right to punt it. They only gained 36 yards of field position from it. Jason Myers had already missed 2 field goals. So there was a couple of weird decisions kind of going in there. But Rob, I don't know what your thoughts were in terms of if you're in Mike McDonald's head. For me, I like to be a little bit more aggressive, especially in that kind of no man's land situation. If you're going to be a punch you in the mouth team, if you're going to be we're establishing our running game, and if you really trust your defense, to me, I go for it on that, especially that first 4th down. And then the second one, run the damn ball. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I hear you. I actually was in more of a defensive mindset, and so I liked the decision to punt the ball and pin him all the way back. I thought that Seattle had pretty consistent pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He was able to, just work his magic. I mean, that's one of the great things that he does is he kind of spins his way out of contact by just enough time and is able to, kind of dink and dunk and be very effective in that way. So I liked the decision to go for the field goal early, to go for the punt early as well and pin them back. I thought that this was going to be more of a defensive battle than it actually wound up being, just because Seattle had started to flex and really be very effective in their play action passing. And so that obviously opened things up a little bit. I want to get back to one of the things that Chris talked about for a moment there, when he mentioned that the 2 interceptions, or at least referenced them. I agree. And I'm not positive that everybody is going to agree with the interception that I think is on the quarterback. And the interception I thought was a great defensive play. To me, look, I'm a big believer in Sam Darnold. I was a big believer at USC. I couldn't believe that he struggled as much as he did early in his career, and felt very vindicated when he had the success that he had with the Minnesota Vikings this past year. But that was a late throw to Cooper Kupp. And I thought that Jalen Ramsey showed that he is an all-pro player. He just read the intentions of the receiver. I mean, let's be realistic about who Cooper Kupp is. It's not very likely at the end of that route that he's going to cut back up the field and go for a deep ball. That's just not the player he is. So to me, it was a terrific defensive player who obviously went up against Cooper Kupp so many times when they're both teammates of the LA Rams, and just read it. And then again, I thought that it was a late throw by Sam Darnold that gave Jalen Ramsey an opportunity to make a terrific play, as terrific defenders sometimes do. The other play, the 4th and 1, I'm okay with the play call. Like you, Anders, I want to run the ball. I want that to be the mentality that Seattle has, is that 4th and 1, we're just going to do what we do. We're just going to run the ball right down your throat. But they don't have Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson on the left side of the line anymore. And so I think that they have to try to use some play action. I was okay with that. But I'm going to give Robbie Oots a lot of credit. I think throughout this game, I mean, he as they said in the telecast, I mean, he had that one block that was a decleater, and he took out 2 defenders. It was an unbelievable block. But at the same time, his name is Robbie Oots, but it was Robbie Oof on that play, because he got beat. That was the reason why the play disintegrated in Sam Darnold's hands. And so I think that sometimes great defenses, especially on the road, are going to make big plays. So I think you tip your cap to the opponent and then keep fighting the next day. And I think that punting sometimes allows you to do exactly that, especially if you are dominating from a defensive perspective, as much as I thought the Seattle did for the vast majority of this game, except for, of course, for the one Aaron Rodgers little dink and dunk throw that Jalen Warren went for, 150 yards, it felt like,
Give
on
or
that
take.
long catch and run.
Yeah, the voice of reason, Rob Rang. Thank you so much for helping us out. Chris, are you as rational as Rob is, or are you emotional and reactive like I am?
I am emotional and reactive.
Okay.
However, I was 50-50 on whether they should have gone for it on that fourth down. Not like last week where I am not even close to 50-50.
It was a similar situation for me. That's why I kind of was drawing the comparison.
Interesting. Yeah, to me, and there's two different ways to think about trusting your defense, right?
Yes.
Rob is not incorrect, obviously, because Rob is a heck of a lot smarter than both of us. But there is believing in your defense and saying that there's no way they're going 87 yards against us. Right. There's also believing in your defense and saying, I believe that this team cannot get those necessary 51 yards. Heck, I believe that they don't even can't even get into field goal range here. There's two different ways to believe in it, right? Last week, I thought was a better example of that. And I thought that Greg Olsen hit the nail on the head, that if you really believe in your defense there, go for it. They're not going to drive. Early in the game, you have the best punter. It wasn't a great punt from Michael Dixon, to be honest. And that's the disappointing thing is there, that you're hoping to pin them inside the 10, maybe even inside the 5 with what I still think is the best kicker or punter in football. I didn't have a huge issue with it. The fourth down play just was a little too cute for me. Just a little too cute. And Oots has to execute. Yeah. But don't put Oots into a position where he needs to execute as much there, is what I would say there. Just kind of pick up that 1 yard, keep things going. Just a little too cute. I thought last week Kubiak had a few too cute moments. I think that's the only one that I can say, in my personal opinion, was a little bit on the shaky side.
Totally agree. I kind of went into halftime being like, not this again. Please, not this again. And then he completely proved me wrong in the second half.
Did he ever?
They did what they do. And it was not like they were trying to trick anyone. They were just coming out and be like, we're playing Seahawks football. Try and stop it. And it works. That's how it ends up working out. Welcome to the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Chris Crawford, Rob Rang. Please like the video if you have not already. We'll take a quick break, come back. I want to talk about that running game specifically because Ken Walker got a lot of hate last week, and Jack Charbonnet got a lot of love last week. Is this just a flip-floppy situation? One just happens to play better, or is it maybe that there is some, I don't want to say luck, but it's just coincidence involved with who happens to have more running lanes when they run each week. We'll talk about that here on the other side of the break on the Seahawks Squad Show. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. And now with football back, it's the easiest, simplest, and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 through 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing PrizePicks a ton lately, and it's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, easy, and honestly my favorite way to follow along with football. If you want to add some extra action and juice into the game, if you already got some fantasy stuff going on. God, I made some bad decisions on that earlier today. I love checking projections like, a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, more or less on the passing yards, can kind of see who you're playing against defensively. We got some discounts as well where Travis Kelce, you get 0.5 receiving yards. All he has to do is get 1 receiving yard or more, and then you can add that on to your kind of a more or less lineup. And I think it's pretty likely that he gets more than 1 receiving yard. I shouldn't put it in stone, though, because he's also on my fantasy team, so we'll see what ends up happening. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Welcome back to Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Chris Crawford, Rob Rang with you. Seahawks win this one to go to 1-1 on the season, 31-17 over the. Did he hit one? I haven't been watching.
54, baby.
Let's go.
54.
Let's go. You'll hear more of that later in the Mariners postcast, also on Locked On, but on the Mariners side. Let's talk about the Seahawks, though. They end up getting this one. They're 1-1 now in the season, 31-17 final score. I want to talk about the running game because it was a big point of contention last week with the disparity in efficiency between Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker III. It kind of flipped today. So today I asked you guys, are we going to keep doing this flip-flopping thing? Is there a true number one in this backfield, or is it kind of a committee situation where it just depends on who ends up having more lanes to run through, who the better matchup is? Chris Crawford, what are your thoughts on the running back situation?
Yeah, so this is going to happen. I mean, we are recapping one game at a time. This is what this particular show is. It's just a recap of the game, and there's going to be reactionary moments. What I found disappointing as a person who listens to some talk radio, a person who somehow gets to host it sometimes, it's a huge mistake, but you know what? Let him keep making that mistake. I need those paychecks. There was some really reactionary stuff, like really reactionary about Kenneth Walker. And like I said after the show, and like I mentioned with Corbin when we did our show, and again, we go two shows a week. Please check us out. We like that. It was pretty clear Kenneth Walker, number one, wasn't healthy, and number two, did not have a full grasp of this playbook. Clearly, some stuff going on. He looked pretty damn healthy to me today. He looked pretty dang healthy. And again, this is a guy, and it wasn't broken tackles today, but it's worth pointing out. This guy broke the PFF record for most missed tackles last year. This is not a bum. This is not a undrafted free agent from Saginaw State. This is a guy who has had some real success in this league, and we saw why. We saw why because the shiftiness, the burst, and sometimes we don't get a chance to see that burst because the Seahawks offensive line just hasn't given him that chance. He was terrific. That touchdown to end the game was... I mean, it's almost like a give-up play, but not really. And I love plays like that. We're being safe. We're not going to throw a pick. We're not going to set anything up. But we're also going to, give him a chance to get outside and put his wheels to work. And boy, did he put his wheels to work. Zach Charbonnet, I mean, that's as ugly as a line as I've seen in a while. And he needed a late 6-yard run to make it look like
less
not
ugly.
Less ugly. But I struggle with how much I really blame him because every run I watched, there was a defender in his face almost the minute he touched the football. That pitch on the last drive, the real last drive of the game for the Seahawks there. I mean, what's he supposed to do? You can't hit the B button that fast, folks. You just can't. Zach Charbonnet is a good football player. Kenneth Walker is a good football player. There are going to be days where both are better suited, and today Kenneth Walker was better suited for that game plan today. And I'm guessing he's going to be better suited more often than not. And that's not an insult to Zach Charbonnet, but his ability to miss tackles, his ability to create, I think he's a good fit for this offense. And last week wasn't indicative of it. This week was a pretty good example that he can be a pretty damn good football player.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Kay and I need to learn the playbook a little more. Is it also the other situation, Rob, where the offensive coordinator can learn to call plays that benefit Kenneth Walker a little bit more as well? So both sides need to kind of learn each other a little bit.
I think that's absolutely the case. And, Chris was very humble, and as he was just talking about a moment ago, that, occasionally gets allowed to host shows, and he doesn't know why they do that. Well, because the way you just articulated, sir, I thought that you did a great job there. Because I 100% agree with you, but I also think that the way that you explained it was nails. I mean, just because Zach Charbonnet is a really good player, but Kenneth Walker III is just an exceptional talent. He is just he's a faster guy. He's a shiftier guy. And so there are going to be games in which the defense is going to be able to bottle up both these backs. Yeah. But Kenneth Walker III, if he does get a little bit of a sliver, he has that B button, that burst to be able to kind of just take a good play and make it a phenomenal play more consistently than Zach Charbonnet can. I think that it was almost, kind of joking here, of course, but it was almost like a complete reversal of what we saw in the first game. Where, against the 49ers, it felt like every time that Kenneth Walker III got the ball, there was zero blocking, and he was just dead to rights in the backfield every time. And this time, it was Zach Charbonnet's turn to okay, let's see how good you are when the entire offensive line just does an Olay, and you're just kind of stuck. And so sure. I thought that both backs made some pretty remarkable runs out of turning, chicken stuff into chicken salad or whatever. And, and just because there were some pretty dynamic plays there. And then, the call at the end and when Walker, kind of runs away with it for the touchdown and to give the Salt away the victory. Again, I think that it was good play calling because you're not anticipating a touchdown that way, but you are anticipating some positive yardage, get yourself in better position to kick a field goal, keep the clock running. And then the fact that he was obviously able to break it just makes it that much more fun from a Seahawks perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's funny because, I understand everyone has agendas. Maybe there's one player you like to watch a little bit more, but it's just funny how the narratives have completely flipped for 1 week, where everyone on the Kenneth Walker side was saying oh, he's getting nowhere to run, and then everyone on the Zach Charbonnet side was just he hits the hole so much faster, and now it's the complete opposite, right? So it's the way it is, guys. There's going to be weeks where one of these two, as Chris so eloquently stated, one of these two is going to get bottled up. But that's why you have two talented running backs. That's why you have two guys that were drafted in the second round. There's very few guys that are going to be a big difference maker every single week in the NFL at the running back position. The Saquon Barkleys, the Bijan Robinsons, the Derrick Henrys of the world, right? And I don't think that Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker are miles behind those guys, but they're not to that level. So having two of them makes such a big difference. That's why you see so many running backs by committee in the NFL. So just learn to love them both. They're both on your team. Having both of them is a good thing. You don't need to see one more than the other every single week. Just let things play out the way it's supposed to. And building a running game is so important, especially to this offense. So having two running backs that you can trust in certain situations will absolutely help this team moving forward. I'm glad you guys agree. I really am. I was not ready for the see, I told you so sort of situation.
No. But let me jump right back for a second there. I think some of it is just a reality of our times that there's a lot of football followers who are football followers, and maybe they don't have both Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker III on their fantasy football roster, so that's why they're not necessarily Seahawks fans. They want Kenneth Walker III or Zach Charbonnet to score those points. And then, to me, this is one of the things about scouting that I love is when you do have an opportunity to just see the difference in a tenth of a second in 40-yard dash time. You could see the difference in the speed of Kenneth Walker III in this football game. Zach Charbonnet ran a 4.51, which at his size is a fantastic time. But Kenneth Walker III ran a 4.38. And again, you can see that difference in this particular game. The Pittsburgh Steelers happen to have one of the fastest off-ball linebackers, in the game, in Patrick Queen. And then Peyton Wilson is a terrific linebacker as well, terrific athlete as well. You could see Kenneth Walker III's burst just gave Seattle a different element of explosiveness than they had with Zach Charbonnet on the field.
No doubt.
Elite TV says, can neither confirm nor deny that Sharp stole my parlay. Sold my parlay, excuse me. But we got the win, so I could care less. Appreciate the honesty, even though you weren't really honest with us.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we kind of teased it in the first segment. I want to talk about number 14, Sam Darnold. How did he look today? It wasn't all good, but I think it was mostly good, to be completely honest. I think he got a lot of hate after week 1, 2, which is weird to me because I didn't see a lot of issues with Sam Darnold. So I want to get two Sam Darnold truthers right here, Chris Crawford and Rob Rang. I want to get their opinion on what they think of number 14's performance today. I think he outdueled Aaron Rodgers, to be completely honest. So I think that's worth saying something as well. We'll get to that here on the other side of the break here on the Seahawks Squad Show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like the video if you have not already.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all turn to some funny places for advice. Your barista, your barber, maybe even a random stranger in the bathroom. But not everyone is the right one when it comes to real support. That's why BetterHelp is here. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 10 years of experience, BetterHelp helps you find the right match. Some clinically trained and credentialed to get you through life's challenges. We still have a stigma against getting ourselves better. We still have a stigma about seeking help, to going to get therapy. And in particular, I know there's a lot of men my age who are listening to this show. We still have that stigma, and it's silly, guys. And anything we can do to make our lives better, to not only make our lives better, but to make the lives around us better, is a really good thing. I cannot recommend therapy enough. It helped me when I was at my absolute lowest of lows. And if you're feeling that, feel free to reach out to me, but really reach out to BetterHelp. And as the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
Welcome back to the Seahawks Squad Show. Chris Crawford, Anderson Hurst, Rob Rang. I'm going to put myself back on. Oh, Chris did it already. Perfect. He's ahead of me. He's way ahead of me. Let's go. He's locked in here on the Locked On Seahawks Squad Show. Really appreciate it. Everyone tuning in. Love hanging out with you guys after every single Seahawks game. Seahawks get the win on this one. They're 1-1 on the season. I think if you were to give me 1-1, if you were to ask me before the season, you can go 1-1 after the first 2 weeks. I would have taken that. I would have liked 2-0, honestly, and I would have, like I said, before the season, probably thought they could go 2-0. But if you were to offer me 1-1, I probably would sign for that just to kind of get through the early part of the seaseason. I think the Seahawks kind of did a lot today to really calm the nerves of a lot of Armageddon folks, 12s out there that were ready to burn scorched earth, I should say. So, I think they played one of their most complete games of football in their last 2 years, especially in that second half. And a lot of it has to do with the play of Sam Darnold. I know he's not going to get headlines today. I don't think he was the best player in this game. He's not the reason the Seahawks won, but he did exactly what he needed to do in this offense, Rob Rang. And I just want to know your thoughts on the play of Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I thought they played a great game. I mean, obviously, if you just look at it in the box score, you see the 2 interceptions. If you see the, highlights, lowlights of Sam Darnold's 2 interceptions, and it's easy to follow that narrative of, he's seeing ghosts again. He's throwing the ball late in the coverage. He's, how does he not get the ball over the defensive lineman's hands? Another interception. He doesn't make the tackle when the defender is making the run back. He's not a physical guy. All that kind of nonsense. I saw a guy who was crisp with his decision making. I saw a guy that showed excellent accuracy, short, intermediate, and deep. Threw the ball with great trajectory and touch to allow his receivers to go, collect the football. I thought, and to your point, Anders, you said that he outdueled Aaron Rodgers. I 100% agree with that, and that's you're talking about a quarterback who has, as they said on the telecast, the greatest touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history. Yeah. And so there were multiple times where Aaron Rodgers was under pressure and he struggled to get the ball. They didn't call intentional grounding as often as I thought that they should have.
Yep.
Yes.
But that Sam Darnold would kind of run out and then flip the ball out, and at least you live to play another game or another down.
Yeah.
And that just fits in so nicely with the defensive mentality of this particular football team. So, again, when there were some things that fell apart around him, I didn't see the terrible, frankly, body language from Seattle's starting quarterback that I saw from Pittsburgh's starting quarterback. And I think that is that's unusual for a guy. This is only obviously a second start in Seattle, but I think that he already is showing the leadership that you want at the quarterback position.
Yeah, he has a lot of intangibles, and I totally forgot. There's so many times where, he rolls out, doesn't see that there's anything there, and he throws it away. But right before he gets sacked, he really negates the negative plays, in my opinion, which is something that's so weird because he kind of came out of college as like the gunslinger, the guy that took a bunch of chances.
Such a different quarterback.
I know he's such a different quarterback now, but I think what he is now is perfect for this offense, honestly. Yeah. So Chris Crawford, I don't know if you feel the same way, but how do you feel that Sam performed in today's game?
Vastly improved from last week. And some of that has to do with, I think the scheme was vastly improved from last week as well. We saw the play action pass. In fact, we saw it on that very first touchdown pass, right? Torrey Horton does a nice job getting across the field. Not the best coverage that I've ever seen, but he gets that ball there. That touchdown throw to A.J. Barner is an absolute piss missile. That is absolutely like a perfect throw in a dangerous area, but he puts it in the exact spot for Barner to make that play. My favorite play, though, was to Barner, but it was later in the game.
Yes.
A bull rush just beats the hell out of the Seahawks defensive line, and he does hit that B button. He makes the little spin move, and he puts just the right amount of touch on that throw to Barner for a massive first down. I believe that was third down.
It was third down. And that's not that's the Kenneth Walker touchdown drive. It was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. That keeps that drive going. You're feeling great after you make that play. I still think there are times where he's locking in on the top receiver a little bit too much, but when your top receivers, Jackson Smith and Jigma, I don't blame you all that much. Gosh dang, that guy is so freaking good. And, really good. We can talk about the vast improvement that we saw from Cooper Kupp as well.
I mentioned that, yes.
Of some more involvement of the tight ends, which I was desperate for. But Sam Darnold did the job today. 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions just doesn't really accurately describe how good Sam Darnold was for the overwhelming majority of this football game. And, the term game manager has become such a negative. It's
it's positive.
I think it's a positive, and I think he was better than a game manager for a lot of this game as well. He made football plays. He made the plays that were necessary for, they get a special teams touchdown, but you score 31 points on the road. 31 points on the road. That's a very good effort, and I'm much more encouraged with how Sam Darnold is going to play than I am last week. Last week was pretty rough.
Yeah, I don't want to. I think last week was a lot to do with the fact he just didn't have the ball very much, and I think a lot of it had to do with the first time play caller with this offense. I'm not going to put it on him, but the results.
I should say the passing game looked more rough than Sam Darnold looked. That's totally fair.
Yeah. And I love that you pointed out the third down there because Pittsburgh had just kicked a field goal to put it back to 7 points. If they don't convert that, Pittsburgh can go down and tie the game. This is a completely different game if he doesn't convert that. And I honestly didn't think he would. Perfect play call too in that situation. I love the play action there. Then you get the deep shot to JSN, and then you get the Ken Walker 19-yard touchdown run. I think that was one of the more important and if Locked On veterans, who watch Locked On Mariners as well. Tune in if you haven't. We'll be live right after the Mariners baseball game. Chris and I do unsung hero or unsung moment in every single game. That was the unsung moment for me in today was Sam Darnold converting that third down because you don't look at that in the box score. It's just like a 6 or 7 yard play. But without that conversion, this game, I think, looks completely different. Rob, I saw you wanted to add something there to what Chris said.
Well, and to what you said, Anders, for one, if you haven't listened to Locked On Mariners, then you've got because obviously this is a magical season we're having. These gentlemen do a great job. And that the unsung moment is one of my favorite elements of your guys' show. I'd like to incorporate into this one. And I'm actually going to go with a play that is an unsung moment in Seattle's victory that I think is going to be one that most Seahawks fans are going to be, they're most critical of the Seahawks. And that was the Aaron Rodgers little dink pass to Jalen Warren, where he basically made every Seahawk defender miss at one point or another. The reason why I think that play is important is, for one, obviously the Seahawks were able to tackle him short of the end zone, and Darion Kendrick got the interception just a couple of plays later. to me, what was fascinating, I risked not being able to watch the game live because I was just waiting. With the commercial break, I thought they're going to replay this and it's not even going to be an interception for Kendrick or something. But I wanted to make sure I knew who the defender was that showed such terrific hustle to get Jalen Warren after everybody else missed it. You know who it was? It may surprise people. Tariq Woolen.
Yeah.
So when people are critical of Tariq Woolen and, you know, his effort and all this kind of nonsense, you know, again, professional athletes are going to get beat by professional athletes sometimes. Oh, yeah. But again, I thought that the effort, you saw that 4.26 speed, you know, and the effort to go down there and make a tackle that saved, obviously, a huge play. And then again, Darian Kendrick being the interception. To me, that was a momentum shifter, just like that third down rollout that you just mentioned. Sam Darnold, but hey, A.J. Bonner, that just sucked the air out of that stadium. You could feel it on television. Yeah. And so, again, I think that those are the type of moments that win football games.
Yeah, completely agree. Chris, you can add on that if you want.
No, I was just going to say, I thought Tariq Woolen actually played a pretty damn good football game today. And, you know, I think that was a incredibly reactionary stuff from the last week as well. Tariq Woolen wasn't great in 2024. He wasn't bad. He was a very solid second cornerback. You want more because he showed the flashes of being an all-pro corner during that rookie year. Some of that's also based on the fact that teams just we're going to pick on the 5th round cornerback who has played cornerback for about 18 minutes at the college football level. And it's a lower college football level. UTSA is not exactly a football hotbed, right? Yep. I think Tariq Woolen is a very solid football player who could become great. It's frustrating that we see sometimes where the instincts aren't great. It's not effort, it's instincts still aren't quite where they need to be. But that doesn't mean Tariq Woolen can't be a helper for you. And Tariq Woolen and I almost called him Jackson Jobe. I always want to do that. There's the baseball in me. All of the cornerbacks played terrific football games today. We can talk about the defense in the next segment, but
yes, that's what
I thought there was some really good stuff from the secondary in this one. And it was great. That hustle moment. Thank you so much for bringing it up, Rob, because that was phenomenal.
Well, I was going to say, to your point, too, I mean, cornerback was obviously the position that we were all defensive back, I guess. You know, with Nicky Manmori, of course, out. And then the news of Devin Witherspoon being out, I thought, oh, my goodness, Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, they're going to eat the Seahawks for lunch. We had a conversation earlier about fantasy football. Aaron Rodgers is on my fantasy football roster. I did not start him in this game, and I consider
Good man.
News. But yeah, Josh Jobe and Tariq Woolen, Darian Kendrick, Shaq Griffin, you know, all the corners. Obviously, the safeties played well. Kobe Bryant, that interception late. Some of the plays by Julian Love as well, knocking the ball out of DK Metcalf's hand early in the game. I think, again, just set a tone that this is not just Devin Witherspoon and, you know, and everybody else. Even with your spark plug off on the sideline, the Seahawks defensive backs, I thought played a terrific football game against obviously a future Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers.
Man, you guys are stealing all of my topics for next segment. All right,
there's much more. There's
much more. You're right. There's a few more in there. You're just it doesn't go to script. It's Clint Kubiak over here, making adjustments in the first half. All right, we'll be right back here on the Seahawks Squad Show. We'll talk some defense because we spent most of the time on the offense today. I think it's the biggest jump from week 1 to week 2 between the two units, but that doesn't mean the defense doesn't deserve some love because they were excellent today. The secondary, I want to ask how DK Metcalf did against these guys. I want to see what you guys thought about the pass rush. That's a huge thing for me. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break here on the Seahawks Squad Show, post-game show version. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey, Seahawks Squad Show fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. You can use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. You don't need to buy other things. You don't need to combine purchases or anything like that. That's what I love about Upside. You just download the app, sign up, and then it tells you where to get gas, and you get money back just for doing something you're already going to do. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just like me to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card, or Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now by using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Welcome back to the Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Chris Crawford, Rob Rang. We got your post-game show covered here on Locked On Seahawks. You'll get some more Locked On Seahawks coverage from Corbin Smith later today. But we go live right after every single Seahawks game. Kind of initial reaction. It's what I thrive in the most. I'm a very emotional, reactionary guy. But then I use the experts to kind of calm me down, tell me if what I'm feeling is the right way to feel at this point in time. So it's my kind of therapy session, as Chris Crawford pointed out with BetterHelp earlier today. This is my therapy session with my two guys right here. So let's talk some defense, because it's just I struggle to find words to describe, because I don't want to completely say that they're a top 3 defense in the NFL, but they're at least top 5. And I think there's still another level to go with these guys, especially if you do this on the road without probably your best defensive player in Devin Witherspoon. I think there's a lot of depth in this team. I think you could point to the pass rush. DeMarcus Lawrence was really good today. Byron Murphy gets 2 sacks, had a half of sack all of last year. So he's starting to get some returns on that first round status, more looking like the player that we look for today. I think Ernest Jones played a fantastic game today. Just where do your eyes go, Chris Crawford, from today's game defensively?
First of all, most importantly, Astros lose, Rangers lose. So that's what I have to say about the Seahawks defense. No. So I'm so glad you brought up Byron Murphy, because such a huge fan of this guy. Watching him in the semifinal game against UW, I thought he was the best player on the field for the overwhelming majority of that game. He's just an absolute wagon. And I watched that rookie year and thought, all right, there's some good moments here, but when am I going to see that burst? When am I going to see that ability to slide through these defenders? Yeah. Well, the answer to that question is September 14th, 2025. Perfect. He was phenomenal today. Just the absolute burst and hustle and pressure, and did a solid job in the run game as well. The big thing for me here is the pass rush against the 49ers was non-exemplary, is the nice way to put it. You had 8 quarterback hits today. 8. That's a good, solid number. But Byron Murphy was fantastic. You know, the only reason I push back on Devin Witherspoon being your best defender is because I think it's probably Big Cat Williams, and he had another impact football game for you today. 1A, 1B. You know, they're both such great football players. Yes. I thought Tyrese Knight had a much better time of it than he did last week. And, you know, some of that has to do with scheme, asking that guy to cover Christian McCaffrey, not at full strength, or any of those 49er tailbacks or tight ends, you know, that were leaking out. You know, the 49ers did have some completions, like you saw the Jalen Warren long pass that we talked about. You saw, you know, Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, I think, combined for like 8 or 9 catches, something along those lines. But nothing was really big. There was one sideline pass to Freiermuth that was more good throw from Aaron Rodgers than anything else. But the improvement I saw from Tyrese Knight, and they have to have it, as good as Ernest Jones is, the Seahawks defense is going to work well if the 2 off-ball linebackers are able to make plays like that. And both of them were terrific in the run game, terrific in the pass game. This was an excellent defensive effort against an offense that I don't think stinks. I don't think it's the best, but I don't think it stinks. And they made this offense look pretty terrible for about 3.5 quarters.
Yeah, Rob, where do your eyes go defensively?
My eyes always go to Leonard Williams. I just think that he is one of the truly dominant players in all of the NFL. I think he is the best defensive player that they have. But I definitely, as I said a moment ago, was concerned about Seattle's depth at cornerback. just going up against the quarterback of the caliber of Aaron Rodgers, and might he be able to just attack downfield? But I thought that Seattle's defensive line and some of those exotic blitzes that Mike Macdonald calls really, I think, frustrated Aaron Rodgers. I kind of mentioned the body language earlier with Rodgers, and he always kind of just walks around like with a sulky face, but at the same time, I just thought that he looked uncomfortable. I thought that he was constantly on the move, being forced to move his feet, and that if you're moving your feet, then of course you were recognizing there's a pass rush around you, and then he is not as capable of finding second or third targets. He's going to have to kind of lock in on somebody because he's also obviously still looking for the pass rush around him as well. So I thought that Seattle's defensive line really took control of this game. I thought that it was kind of ironic because that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers are, of course, for. And this being a road game for Seattle's defensive line to be able to play as well as they did, I thought that they kind of controlled the game in a lot of ways, and then allowed the secondary and the linebackers to be able to make some big plays. And the Ernest Jones, to me, was terrific. I mean, just the physicality that he plays, the speed. I think that he is just like the perfect captain of this squad. And then again, just the defensive backs were harassing Pittsburgh's wide receivers. I mean, every pass it felt like was very contested. There was very few. I was worried that DK Metcalf might be able to take a quick slant and be able to take it to the house, that kind of stuff. And if he ever, when he did catch the ball, there were 2 or 3 defenders around him most of the time. And then finally, I do want to give some credit to DK Metcalf actually for the touchdown reception that he got. I thought there was a great play design by the Steelers. They took advantage of his size, which I thought that Seattle didn't use Metcalf often enough as just like a jump ball specialist in the end zone. They did it. He just wasn't very good at it. And so I thought that he did a nice job of actually making that play. So you got to give him credit. The way that they used him, they motioned him and put him on against Kobe Bryant rather than him being against Tariq Woolen, who obviously has a greater, size to be able to combat that type of a throw. So again, this is to your guys' point a moment ago. This isn't a bad Pittsburgh Steelers offense, and to be able to dominate them is in terms of yardage as much as they did. I think really is a testament to this defense that is, in my opinion, very much a top 5 defense in all of the NFL.
Okay, I love that. A couple updates here. Bonnie asks, how's our center, Jalen Sundell? He did go out with an injury. I do have an update from John Boyle. Mike McDonald says Jalen Sundell was cramping up. No other injuries to report there. So that's another positive from today. You don't come out of this with more injuries stacking up because God knows in the NFL that happens so often. So in terms of long-term injuries, I should say, technically that is one of them. But it seems like it's just a little cramp. He'll be able to get back and ready to go for week 3. I want to talk about Ernest Jones for just a second because I think, to me, I was underrating him. Even though I kind of knew he was a big difference for this defense, I thought it was more like, oh, the other guys just couldn't play, and now we have a guy who can play. I think it's more than that. I'm not saying he's Fred Warner. I kind of just thought he was a good player, but just did his job. I think he's in that next tier of middle linebackers in the NFL, where it's like the dude you should be game planning for him, right? And you're starting to see more of those types of players. If Byron Murphy can break out on the defensive line, obviously already Big Cat and Devin Witherspoon are at that point where if you're an offense game planning to play against the Seahawks, it's like those are 2 guys you circle. You always have to be aware of them. I think Ernest Jones is starting to step up into that category. I think Byron Murphy, if he continues to build on this week, is going to step up into that category. I was really impressed with Darion Kendrick as well today. Really looked like he fit. And again, this is a situation where Devin Witherspoon's out, Nicky Manwari's out. You're banged up in the secondary, and they looked like one of the best units on the field today. So I was really, really impressed. It's not like you locked up DK Metcalf. He still got his yards, got a touchdown, but he didn't seem like a big impact player in today's game. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I mean, he has a couple of balls that I think DK Metcalf would tell you that he should have caught as well. Yeah. So I thought the defense did a terrific job. The Ernest Jones trade might be the best trade of John Schneider's career. And he's made some good ones. He's made some really, really good ones. But getting him for a 4th round pick, I believe. And I saw some trade grades that suggested, why are you giving up a 4th rounder for this guy? You have to re-sign him. I think it worked out okay. And, it's so funny too, because I remember, and I was one of those guys, when Mike McDonald gets the job, the first thing I'm thinking is, go sign Patrick Queen. Go sign Patrick Queen to go be your linebacker. See how well he did. You guys watched the football game today? Ernest Jones is a better football player than Patrick Queen. And Patrick Queen's not a bad football player, but Ernest Jones fits what the Seahawks do, on top of the fact that he has just such dynamic vision. He reacts to things so quickly. And again, I'm not meaning to say this is an insult to Patrick Queen, but the Seattle Seahawks made the right decision. Ernest Jones is going to be a stalwart in the middle of that defense for another 2 to 3 years. And gosh, it's just incredible that they got him for that low of price.
Yeah. Rob, what do you think of the defense overall today?
Yeah, again, I think that the defense really played a terrific game. And I love the fact that you guys highlighted Byron Murphy a second. I thought that he needed a breakout game like this.
Totally agree.
His best game I had seen previous was against the Atlanta Falcons a year ago, where he made some splashy plays, but there just weren't enough splashy plays, frankly, to justify where Seattle had selected him. And I was in love with his upside. The same, playoff game, of course, that Chris alluded to before against the University of Washington. I mean, he was terrific, but I just wasn't seeing that guy. And I thought, my goodness, if Leonard Williams is taking up as many blockers as he is Jaron Reed, who, by the way, we got to mention him too.
Great play.
He's just so damn good and so consistent, and so I think that just all across the board, Seattle's defensive line played well. I thought that the edge rushers, I thought that we would see a Boye Mafe sack in this game. Derek Hall had a couple of real big hits on Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. I just break at Rodgers at one point or another. But again, I thought that Byron Murphy was the unexpected star in this game, at least.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
No, Rob, I was just going to ask you, because you are as good as it gets as covering the NFL draft. We talked about how Sam Darnold's pretty different from what he was in college to what he is now. Do you remember the Jaron Reed scouting report coming out of Alabama? How this guy was like, he's going to be so good against the run, but we kind of wonder what he's going to do against the pass. Well, now he's like an elite pass rusher who's not necessarily great on 1st and 2nd down anymore. Isn't that crazy how those things can change? Like, it reminds me personally of Nolan Arenado was like a very questionable whether he was going to stick at third base. And all of a sudden he turned into one of the greatest gloves at that position of all time. But it's so funny seeing Jaron Reed, a guy who was like, man, you have got your plug on 1st and 2nd down. Maybe you got to take him off on 3rd. Now he's a pretty damn good pass rusher. It's funny how that can change so quickly, isn't it?
It really is. And it's, sometimes when people ask me questions like that about, kind of going back and remembering players that have been in the league for a decade, I'm like, wow, I don't know. I don't remember that one. I specifically remember Jaron Reed just because he was at the Senior Bowl, and I saw him going through some pass rush drills, and he kind of looked up at the coaches, and it was like, I had never done it like this before. You could just see the light bulb kind of coming on. And it's the Seahawks have been very good to me. I've had many opportunities to talk to a lot of their scouts, including John Schneider himself. And we actually had talked about Jaron Reed before that draft. And I just was effusive in my praise of him and just sharing the exact same story I just told you guys. Like, I think the light bulb's coming on this guy. I think that he is a more well-rounded player than people want to give him credit. I just love the fact that Jaron Reed has, really made himself into not just one of the better run defenders, more consistent quality defensive lineman in all the league, but one of the better all-around defensive linemen. I think he's truly one of the most underrated defensive linemen in all of the NFL, and he deserves all the credit that he gets because, again, just a terrific player and as durable, consistent. I often use the term junkyard dog to describe him, and I say that with love, just like out of respect. He's just a stud. To me, he is that kind of a guy for the Seahawks.
Yeah, quick question. I know we only have a couple minutes here, but I'm curious on what you guys thought. We haven't talked about him yet. The return of Uchenna Nwosu. I realize it's his first game in a long time, but I just want to know what you guys thought. How did he look to you? Chris Crawford, I'll start with you.
Solid. And, especially for a guy who was clearly on a limited pitch count, I think you see the impact that you can get. the defensive ends on this team are super talented. The production, we'll see. Now, I do believe Derek Hall, like Rob said, Derek Hall had a couple of quarterback hits. Mafe certainly showed his ability as well. DeMarcus Lawrence is just such a great all-around football player. But Uchenna Nwosu has a ceiling that beats those guys, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So if you can get that guy, even if it's going to be limited snap counts for the next couple of weeks to help you, it's going to be a really good thing.
Rob, what do you think of Uchenna?
Yeah, he's another one that, again, I use that term junkyard dog. He is just as physical and tenacious as it gets. To me, he and DeMarcus Lawrence are just – Derek Hall's that way as well. Boye Mafe is the speedier one of the group. And so I think that he's going to wind up actually being their leading pass rusher off the edge. But to me, Uchenna Nwosu just makes this team tougher and meaner and nastier. And I think that's what it comes down to in NFL and defense, especially one like Mike McDonald. So I don't know that Uchenna Nwosu is going to have like the greatest statistics, but at the same time, I think that, again, he makes the Seahawks defense just more formidable, more intense and I think that the opponents feel it, that much more when he's on the field.
Yeah, it just seems like with the Seahawks defense, the more I think about it is you just don't have very many holes. And it's just a lot of guys that do their job. You maybe don't have that true superstar, the Micah Parsons, the TJ Watt, the Fred Warners of the world. But I think the superstar is the scheme. And Mike McDonald just wants guys that do exactly what they're supposed to do, and then the scheme will elevate them to make plays in the positions that they absolutely need to. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Agreed. Totally agree. Yeah, that there's some really good football players here, but they're more of a sum of their parts than individual stuff. And it's funny looking at that Pittsburgh defense. There's some stars, there's some guys who are they're going to get Canton's talk, right? Like Jalen Ramsey and TJ Watt and all that stuff.
Cam Hayward.
It just doesn't seem like they really fit together right now. And some of that is based on the fact that they gave up 34 points or 32 points or whatever it was to an awful New York Jets team. Just real quick, we didn't get a chance to talk about the offensive line. I thought they were vastly improved in the second half, and particularly Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel had a couple of blocks today that were just, holy crap on a cracker. That guy has a chance to be a superstar. Tackle play was just okay, but I think they came together and looked a lot better as the second half went on.
Rob, what do you think of the offensive line?
I thought it was good. Not terrific, because there definitely was some significant pressure on Darnold. I didn't think that the running game was quite as clean as you'd like, but I thought that it was improvement in a hostile environment against a Pittsburgh defense that's proud and pissed off, frankly. After getting just smoked against the Jets in terms of run defense, they were committed to trying to slow down the running game, and Seattle still gashed them. And so, to me, again, I thought that it was, as we said, it was one of the more complete victories we've seen from the Seahawks in an awful long time, and one the Seahawks fans should be very excited about.
Yep. Seahawks
just real quick, too, we didn't talk about Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp vastly improved today as well.
Yeah, so many talking points.
Yeah, there you go. From the fantasy perspective, just a real nice day from him as well. But it was great to see more guys involved as well. And part of that is because the offensive line gave Darnold enough time for him to make some plays to some guys other than JSN. And once again, JSN's a superstar. Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be one of the very best wide receivers in football in a very short time if he's not there right now.
Yeah, there's a reason he wears number 11. He's like 7'11". He's always open.
There you go.
I like that.
I like that a lot. I just think Cooper Kupp wise, I don't even think he played bad in that first week. It's just they didn't target him. I don't know if it was a scheme that plays for him, but he really seemed like the security blanket type of player. When Sam Darnold was in trouble, he looked for number 10. Yep. Then you go for the big play with 11. I think it's a really good 1-2 punch, honestly. If they can continue to get that moving forward, find their roles in that way, then it'll be huge for this offense moving forward. All right. We're already 3 minutes past. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us today. Appreciate Chris Crawford throwing in 5 more. Oh, we forgot to talk about this. Oh, we forgot to talk about that. It's just
nothing. Mariners in the 4th inning. Julio had an RBI double. Big Dumper scored a couple of runs. Diamondbacks are leading the Twins if you're interested in that, and the Padres have a 7-0 lead on the Colorado Rockies.
And if you are a masochist and are a Mariners fan, we will be going live after the Mariners final pitch, or final play, I should say. Today, I'm locked on Mariners. If you aren't subscribed there, we'll also be doing a postcast myself, Christopher Crawford, there as well. Appreciate everyone coming and hanging out with us down the stretch run as we look for an AL West crown. But this one, Seattle Seahawks win this one, go to 1-1 on the season. Kind of pump the brakes on the this team sucks talk that a lot of Seahawks fans are going through after week 1, 31-17. And honestly, I think the score is a little favorable to Pittsburgh in that scenario.
Sure.
The Seahawks pretty much dominated this game, especially in the second half. Lots of positives from today. We'll continue to be with you throughout the rest of the week. We'll have twice weekly Seahawks squad shows for you guys, once during the week to kind of quick recap with Corbin and then preview of the upcoming opponent. And then, of course, like today, we'll be doing your post-game show live on Locked On Seahawks. Appreciate everyone's here. Thank you guys so much. Like the video if you haven't already, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Go Hawks. Last word. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.